All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Hempstead budget hearings on assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025, and the preliminary budget of the Town of Hempstead of fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Here.
Councilwoman Miller.
Here.
Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Here.
Receiver of taxes Janine Driscoll.
Here.
I now ask Deputy Supervisor Gooseby to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I know the heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reminder today, everybody will given one chance to speak for 3 minutes. At the podium right there, if you give your name and address when you go to the location. And we'll start with the Greater Atlantic Beach Reclamation District, a local town budget in accordance with the town's rules. Today's public hearing begins at 2:30 and will continue at 7 p.m. this evening. As I said, those are continuous meetings, so participants can offer their comments now or at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please call the public hearing on the assessment roll for the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025.
Well, you said it so well, but.
Thank you very much.
We have a proposed assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District for fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? All right, I do not have any slips on this item on the calendar. Does anybody wish to be heard on this one that did not sign in? If not, may I have a, okay, if you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Meta J. Meriday, resident, Town of Hempstead. What is the fiscal impact with regard to this situation, and what's the increase as it pertains to this current budget? Since
You're referring to the Greater Atlantic Beach Reclamation District?
if that's the item on the table, I see what I'm referring to.
Okay, John?
Budget
does not have a tax increase.
No, John, if you hit your mic on there. There you go. There you go. There you go. You can hear.
Okay. Yes, they did go over the tax limit.
Wait, this,
Still can't hear you, sir.
They did go over the tax cap. They're a separate board. We do not have any impact on that outside of just providing the information for the public.
Okay, but they went over the tax cap.
They went over the tax. Cap.
Okay, who's responsible for the excess that went over, that's over the cap?
I don't know what you mean by the excess.
Well, you have a
Part of their
cap
budget.
for a reason.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
They had their expenses. They ate them up. Their income was less than adequate. They still got to provide the services and the water purification, and they determined that they needed more revenue. It's as simple as adding your expenses and adding your revenues.
Well, most taxpayers try to add their expenses and their revenue, but when our local governments keep taking that revenue, it's kind of adding to the expenses when we can't make up the difference. So it's not that simple. So
Do you live in Atlantic Beach?
Does it matter where I live?
Well,
I'm
yeah,
still
actually,
paying.
but-
I'm still paying, which would be amounting to this 12% increase in taxes. So it doesn't matter.
Ms. Maraday, actually, in item number 1, it does matter because this is the Atlantic Beach.
Yes, but if it's listed on the town information, printed on paper that town residents have to pay for, then we still have some. We should have some input in what.
No one
happening
said
with
you
it.
could. You asked about the impact.
Okay, so am I talking to you now, or I'm talking to him to get the answer, sir? Because this is my 2 minutes.
Ms. Maraday, you
No, the time
asked
has
a
not been
question.
stopped.
I'm trying to help you with the
I'm trying
answer
to get
there.
the answers from, can you answer the question? Is there going to be an impact with the excess that's going to be spread out over more residents than in Atlantic Beach? Yes or no?
What excess are you talking about?
When you go over, you're trying to pierce a tax overall to cover expenses that were voted on in a budget that clearly was not enough money. So you're raising a current budget. If I could finish my sentence
Sure.
during my 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
So you're raising expenses on a stressed tax base. I don't care where the location is, we're all responsible for it. So I'm just trying to get answers to the question. Unless we want to have the situation where they have like in New York City, where we just need the FBI to come in here and raid it and get the books and find out the answers that you clearly do not want to give residents.
Oh, no.
So
No.
are we getting, is
Ms.
this
Maraday,
going to,
what I'm trying to explain to you is item number 1 deals only with the Atlantic Beach district. So that's what I'm saying. You keep saying it's everybody, and no, it's actually the Atlantic Beach district down there. So that's why I said, do you live there? Because then it would have an impact on you. But
Okay.
you don't. So
So
that's what I was trying to explain to you.
Okay.
But okay.
Okay, fair enough.
I know.
So for those residents in Atlantic Beach that might be working 2 and 3 jobs, taking care of their kids and their seniors who not able to come to either meeting at 2:30 and 7:30, maybe someone like myself wants to stand up and speak for them, as I'd hope somebody could stand up and speak for me. Long as I got it on the record. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to be heard on item number 1? Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I move the board continue the public hearing at 7 PM this evening.
Okay.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding, to enact Chapter 10E of the Code of the Town of Hempstead regarding overriding the real property tax levy limit for the fiscal year 2025.
Okay. Any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay. I have a couple of people that signed in here. We'll start with James Jacobs. And if you come to the back area and please give your name and address, that would help. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jane Finkelstein, 848 Mayor Drive.
No, with James Jacob?
Excuse me?
James Jacob was called.
Oh,
That's okay. No worries. Don't worry. How you doing, Mr. Jacob? Name and address, thanks.
Good afternoon. Supervisor Clavin, Deputy Supervisor Goolsbee, and so forth. Just curious, a point of clarification. I noticed that when people be speaking, you're responding to them, that the clock keeps running. And I wonder what kind of rules that you operate on the parliamentary procedure. Because when I asked something before about the squad, you didn't let them speak. But saying that, I just was curious because I need a point of clarification because recently I got a couple of mailings from the town of Houston stating that how we have such a budget surplus, but yet I see something in the news about 12.1 increase in taxes. I'm a little confused or a little concerned because how can you have a surplus and then turn around and ask for a 12.1% increase when the states have a 2% cap on all property for, as my understanding, homeowners? So, maybe somebody can explain to me, a layperson or a stockholder, which you live in Unionville, if I stay Ashcourt to take care of that what's going on? And how come I didn't get a flyer about this proposed tax increase? I get flyers for everything else. I get flyers for Zero. I get flyers for Clayman when he goes different points of the town with youth and so forth. But when it comes to tax increase, I get zip, zada, nothing. So I just was wondering what's going on. And if somebody could be kind enough to answer my question, I really would appreciate it.
Great. John?
Yes, what's in front of, first of all, for the year, if you're talking about a surplus for the year, that's not the case. The town hasn't had a tax increase in 4 years. And during that 21, 22, 23, and 24, there was a year of a tax reduction. During that period of time, the cost of living across the country was almost 20%. What we were doing is utilizing reserves to protect our taxpayers. We could have raised taxes. Instead, we decided, you know what, to whatever extent we were able to use our reserves, we did. The reserves were used. The taxpayers were protected. It's now towards a point where you just can't do it anymore. You've got increases that were mandated from the state for pensions and for health insurance. We're paying more to dispose of our garbage because of the local costs of waste disposal. And all these things have piled up. We've done our job. We've reduced the workforce by over 100 people. We've looked at various items where we could reduce expenses even further. So we've done everything we can. We're at a point now where the board has to consider raising the taxes past the cap for the first time in the 4 or 5 years we've been doing this.
Thank you for that. But may I ask a follow-up on that? I understand that you have to raise the taxes, but 12.1%, because that's like 2% for 3 years running. And if you have a surplus the following year, you should at least let the shareholders and stakeholders in the community say, listen, we dip into the reserve. When the reserve is going to run out, we're going to have to increase the taxes. I mean, that's how I would do it. But maybe, like I said, I'm not a fiscal person like you people aren't, for us, those in that particular field. But it's a consideration of Nassau County because, I like being here. The county has been good to my family. But in the same token, I don't mind paying my fair share of taxes. But sometimes I don't like the jujitsu kung fu that they do with this tax information that they put out there that I get all these flyers. I'm sorry I didn't bring them, but how much you got such a big surplus. And then all of a sudden I hear in the news that we have a 12.1 increase in taxes. I'm saying, what kind of bookkeeping they have here from one extreme to another? So that's why, and I thank you for giving me that answer. But in the future, take a little consideration that if you're using reserves and so forth, inform the public, inform the people living in villages and hamlets what's going on. Because when you do something at the last minute, and to me it doesn't seem like it's above board for the proprieties of it, it tends to smell not too good. Just saying my humble opinion about this. So thank you.
John, just a clarification, that this fictitious number that's out there, that isn't accurate, is that correct?
No, that's
Okay.
the actual tax rate was increased by 4.9%.
I can't help the fact that somebody wants to sell newspapers, but I can tell you right now that's an inaccurate number out there.
May I respond to you, Supervisor? The numbers,
absolutely.
I read something by a reputable organization such as Newsday. That means the information they print out is bogus in?
The number that was published in Newsday was inaccurate. John just told you.
I understand that, but they had to get that figure from someplace.
Listen, I can't answer for Newsday. They keep writing editorials and I'm
Well,
leaving too, so I don't know what to
you are
tell
the
you.
supervisor. You are the supervisor. You're in charge of the whole town of Hempstead.
I don't control Newsday.
I know that, sir, but they have to get information from you to
Yeah,
print it.
we did, and that's why I said John wanted to clarify that, because unfortunately, they misinformed a lot of people in the public, which is unfortunate, but,
Okay, just one quick point then. What is actually going to be the increase for today that you're voting on?
John?
4.9%, which is in the unincorporated areas, will give you an increase of maybe $65 a year. And in the incorporated areas, will give you a $5 a year increase in your
So, John, we're in the village of Hempstead. So you're saying it's $5?
$5.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. A year?
A year.
A year? John, wait. A year? Oh, okay. Okay, so that's why I said, it's, people get confused, and I appreciate Mr. Jacobs every time you come, so thank you very much. We're on to the next
you missed me
person.
then. Okay, thank you.
Next we have Felix Percacci.
Felix
Name and address,
Percacci.
please, thank you.
Felix Percacci, Franklin Square. I just want to comment on a few things that were said, because some of the questions were answered. The first year you were in office in 2020, you exceeded the postage budget by, I think, $1 million or more. The state mandates that I mentioned, you make those state mandates when you sign a contract with a vendor, with the union, with whoever. You make those mandates. Now you're mandated to abide by them, but you signed off on that amount. So your state mandates are self-inflicted. You make those mandates.
No, we don't.
On March 31st, 2020, you hired a bunch of people, and all that money was in the millions of dollars, weren't in the budget. The tax levy, according to your budget book, if you look at the 2024 budget book and go to the 2025 budget book, the tax levy is going up by 12.1%. That's unambiguous, it's true, and that's what it is. And as far as you holding taxes in line for the last 4 years, that's another lie, because if you do the tax levy and you look at the tax levy in 2020 and you go to 2024, it comes out to 1.4%. So those the tax levy, and that's where the numbers are coming from. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Percacci, have a great day. Karen Montalbano? Hi, if you give your name and address of the record, thank you.
Karen Montalbano, Park Avenue, Baldwin. So I would like an explanation of the difference between the tax rate and the tax levy, and you could stop my clock.
John?
The tax rate is what's in the book and what each resident pays. We then take that tax rate and go through a calculation by utilizing assessment information that's provided by the county and applying what's called the 4 classes of property. Once that's done, that produced that number, but the levy. But the town did not produce that levy. The town increased the tax rate by 4.9%. That's all we did. But if you put that information into the prearranged calculation, utilizing the assessment data from the county and applying it for the 4 classes of property, that's what happened.
Okay. So, but we are still looking at a tax increase. We're still looking at more money we have to pay.
Right, $5 and $65 depending on where you live.
I will wait to see what that shows in my bill. But let me just say that the town of Hempstead continues to play sleight of hand with our money. First, there were the federal COVID payments that went to the payroll, not to the community, which was the original thought. Then last year I was here when the board decided to give themselves a perpetual COLA, cost of living adjustment. And when I asked about where the money was coming from, I was told that it would come from the contingency fund. What makes up the contingency fund? Oh, our taxes. Yet, where did that contingency come to play? It's our reserves. So it seems you cannot keep taking all that money in the reserves, money that comes from our taxes, and keep the town of Hempstead credit rating for Moody's at the top AAA rating. So now you want a so-called modest tax rate. You got to pierce the tax cap. Like everybody else, we don't have, our money is going faster out than it's coming in. Okay? And it's not enough. Where will this go? A good portion will go to the salaries, not back to our communities where we will live and continue to pay those taxes. It's becoming increasingly expensive to live here. Young people have a difficult time buying a home. Older people have a difficult time staying here. As I said last year, we all would have liked to have a permanent cost of living adjustment, but only you have it. Meantime, we are getting less for our tax money from the government that is running my hamlet of Baldwin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next I have Pearl Jacobs. Good afternoon, name and address for the record, thank you.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale, president of the Nostrand Garden Civic Association in Uniondale. So as a resident of Uniondale, and first of all, I would like to start and say that it's disgraceful that we are the residents and we pay into our taxes. We pay you, everyone up there, and there was no transparency to tell us that we were under consideration for a tax rate. I don't care if it was 1%, 4.9%, or 12.1%. We should have the respect to be notified that you're going to raise our taxes, or trying to raise our taxes, because I don't think you'll be victorious in this. So as a resident of Uniondale, an underserved community in the town of Hempstead, I am requesting a tax rebate. Uniondale is a community that lacks representation from a town of Hempstead perspective. We have no investment. We have no representation. And the picture of our water tower in Uniondale, okay, corroded from the bottom to the top and leaking, okay, hasn't been touched in 30 years. This is indicative. Represents how Uniondale is treated. No investment, no representation. This picture of our water tower is proof enough to show that we're neglected. I don't care. You can tell me we're a hamlet. I pay taxes. We still pay our taxes. We get no representation. Seniors are leaving in droves because they cannot pay and afford to pay their taxes. Even veterans are leaving. They served our country. A lot of them are suffering from health issues, PTSD, everything else, and they still can't afford to live in the town of Hempstead. There's no regard for the residents. There's no regard for the seniors. If you look around the town of Hempstead, you see people laying in parks, laying on bus shelters, laying underneath trestles. They're homeless. But you can raise our taxes. In fact, there's a piece, I read something where the town of Hempstead contributed to D'Esposito's, I think it was $18,000. Okay, is that legal? Can you contribute to his campaign? I don't know, but I'm looking into that. But it's absolutely disgraceful how you disrespect your residents of the town of Hempstead. And as a community leader, I'm requesting a tax rebate for Uniondale. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. You have a good day. Next I have Claudia Barecki. Hi, good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record.
Claudia Barecki, 28 Washington Drive, Merrick, New York. Before I start, I'd like to, I think it should be noted that my council person, Chris Schneider, is conveniently absent today on a day that you will be voting on the budget. Could it be because they don't want a literature put out there that Chris Schneider voted to increase our taxes? It's just typical. I'm going to read from the letter that the Belmore Merrick Democratic Club sent. I'm president of which. The Belmore Merrick Democratic Club is writing to express opposition to the secretive plan that would increase our taxes by 12.1% without adequate public notification and asked to postpone the vote until it had an opportunity to consider public input. Today, the town is holding two budget hearings, one in the afternoon and another in the evening, with a vote to immediately follow. The schedule does not allow for the consideration of public comments before the vote. The BMDC requests that the town postpone the budget vote to properly consider the public's input, and maybe at a time where Chris Schneider can be available to vote on it. Moreover, the BMDC contends that the town did not review the budget with the intention of reducing expenses. Rather, it seems they intended to approve this inflated budget quietly during a non-election year, then use our tax dollars for mailers that will boast they will freeze taxes next year when they are all up for re-election. The BMDC proposes that substantial tax reductions could be realized by significantly reducing the town's mailing budget. This year, the town already sent out 40 mailings, roughly one per week, most of which are thinly veiled campaign pieces promoting either themselves or their friends running for office in Albany and Washington at a cost of $80,000 each. Historically, the town then increases its mail budget during the election years, disregarding the resultant tax hikes. The town hoped that no one would notice that it was substantially raising taxes. Does the town notify the public of its intent to pierce the tax cap? No. Does the town send a mailer explaining why the 12.1 increase is needed? No. Does the town notify the public back in February that it approved raises of up to 14% for themselves and their friends and relatives who work at the town? No. Supervisor Clavin and the town board were aware then, as they are now, that raising taxes would be necessary to fund their increased salaries. They are fully cognizant that our taxes would need to be raised to cover the cost of the surge in thinly disguised campaign mailers slated for next year.
Thank you, Ms. Marecki.
I just
Have a
need
great
30
day.
more seconds.
You can submit that. Thank you. Next, I have Mita Meriday. Thank you very much, Marecki. You've come enough that you know the rules. Thank you. Ms. Meriday, if you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Mita J. Meriday. Okay. It's already been eloquently laid out with regard to what this is all about. Piercing the tax cap, again, has been noted. I think I got about 18 different 4-color mailing brochures, postcards, etc. Pet Day, Passport Day, International Week, dial in, but nothing. It's a pleasure to see Councilwoman Ryder, because we can't seem to find her at any event in Baldwin. You were definitely missed at the PTA legislation session, because all the issues the residents had involved town issues, lack of lights, potholes. We are soon going to become the sinkhole capital of the country. But now we're here talking about piercing a tax cap, where we're still trying to find out where the money's going. And as I'm looking over this budget, I see that, seasonal workers and part-time workers, the frontline people, I must always give a shout out to, public safety, facilities, code enforcement, and buildings. You all are definitely on it in this facility, and we appreciate what you do for us in our community. So I definitely want to acknowledge that. But the elected officials, I got a problem. And I don't know how the problem is going to get solved, because I'm going to be wasting my time here. I know that. So I'm going to literally head back, but literally I wanted to come in the combat boots, because the crap is thicker here than out here in the trenches, trying to keep the war widows who are extending the time period in their reverse mortgages and nervous about losing their home. The veterans themselves who have no homes. I don't see, unless I missed it, I don't see any increase in the Veteran Services budget to add people to build out a facility that's going to help our veterans. The young people who are leaving in droves. Our young people are increasing in the suicide rate, matching and almost surpassing our veterans. What are we doing about the health and wellness? But let's continue to expand that tax cap so you all can provide more job opportunities for your colleagues and friends, particularly those in the legal arena who get disbarred when they go to jail, but when they come back and they get plush contracts within the town of Hempstead, as well as Nassau County, as consultants for the various projects that are going in communities not like ours. And the water districts, where our water itself, not to mention the sewer lines that are cracking, but the water itself is detrimental to our residents. But yeah, pierce that tax cap. My next call is the Justice Department and the FBI.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
tired
Mackay.
of this. Yes, I know I'm
Stephanie
about to take my
Capuano,
seat.
thank you very much. Stephanie Capuano?
Hi, Stephanie Capuano.
Hi, how you doing? If you
Wantor.
just
How
give
are
me your name and
you?
address, thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Capuano, Wantor. How are you? I just want to say that when I called up for my real estate for my taxes this month, it was the school taxes, but the clerk said that it increased because there was a freeze on it for 5 years and that it's over. And so my taxes went up $1,000 for the year, my school taxes. And then today, when I heard on Channel 2, because I didn't speak to them, but when I heard on Channel 2, they said that Nassau County residents are going to be really upset when they get a 12% tax hike. So I immediately, figured they said they were coming down here, to talk. So I just want to let you know, I don't want to leave. I love Nassau. I love Long Island, but I'm 70 now and I'm going through my 401k. So I have to really consider, I don't want to go anywhere. I love Long Island and especially Nassau County. I feel safe here. I do. And so that's that. And then the other thing was that I know this isn't appropriate to say right now, but the animal shelter has cut the TNR hours to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's all I want to say. Thank you for listening.
No, Ms. Cappy, I appreciate you coming down. Like I said, when someone throws that headline in the paper and then you come down, you say to people, well, this is the fact. I mean, last week, the county controller released a new bar chart that actually shows the breakdown of taxes in Nassau County. And your school taxes account for 64% of all your property taxes. The Nassau County is 14%. And now the town of Hempstead represents 4% of all the property taxes. So when you say to somebody like you live in Lynbrook, you're paying, it's going to be $5. It's for the $5. We think you get a lot for your bang for your buck. Your beaches, your roads, your parks, your seniors. That's why I said I understand when someone throws a headline and they give that impression, then you have some people feeding into that. Oh, it's the whole thing. But even Nassau County is now saying basically that the town portion of your taxes are 4% of all the property tax you're paying. That's why I said, the significance of John saying, $5 is significant. Frankly, it's probably less than, I don't go there, Mark, it's Starbucks, probably less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks at this point, and I don't even ask for a tip. So, I mean, that's how it goes here. But I appreciate you coming down, and like I said, and the passion on the animal shelter, we respect it. So thank you as always. All right. Margaret Mayer?
Hello, everybody. My name is Margaret Marr. I'm Merrick, New York. And I just want to say, I think with all the taxes going up, okay, regardless if you're saying it's a 5% tax or a 12% tax, all the taxes are going up. I included, as well as you, got a increase in my school taxes, which was $1,000. We also had the salt tax taken away, which we never got back. So you have to realize paying taxes in Nassau County is extremely hard now because everything is so expensive. So even a 5% tax, I'm not in a village, so I'll be paying minimum $60. So adding that to everything else, and let's not forget, our water. We have a private water company that is supposed to go public for years. That's a huge expense for us. All right. We also have our utilities. We have our electric, right? That's also a private. So that should be public. Water is a human right, to live in Nassau County, which is a beautiful place. I've been here 38 years. We're getting priced out. It's too much money. I want the salt tax back. I want the school taxes to be less. It really is ridiculous. My daughter can't even buy a house here, nevertheless even pay percentage of a tax. So it really is outrageous, you know? And Nassau County as a whole, you know, paying money to fund the police for a Trump rally for $1 million. I don't want that. I don't want my tax money paying that. I don't want to do that. Okay? That's not fair to me, and it's not fair to my family and friends. I also didn't appreciate whether it's a 5% tax or a 12% tax, the secrecy of it. I didn't like it. And I have to agree, we do get a lot of mailers. Maybe you should just phone call or email. It's a waste of money to me. A lot of people throw them out. They don't even look at them. So honestly, living in Nassau County, between the school tax, the town tax, the county tax, the water bills, the gas and electric bills, and everything else, you can't live here anymore. It's really hard, you know. And I still work, and we find it hard. And I just really think that if you're going to do a tax, you have to be honest, and you have to let people know. So being shady like that and not saying anything to me is dishonesty, and you have to be more transparent. So maybe in the future you can do that and help us with the rest of the money. And even with Blakeman's, I know it has nothing to do with here, but with all his lawsuits that we have to pay for, it's outrageous. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Martin. Take care. Ray Aurora? Good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
It's Ray Aurora, 3712 Terrapin Place, Seaford, New York. Mr. Supervisor, I know it's been a few months. I haven't been here since the spring, so condolences to you and the board about the passing of Councilmember Carini. I
appreciate that. Nice to hear. Thank you.
Yep. I know you have a difficult job, but you know, working in budgeting in some form in the private sector, I know that when you put something out there and there's no increase in taxes, you're almost guaranteed that 80% of the population is not going to look at the budget. That's the tagline. There's no increase this year. We'll just move on to next year. But the truth is that if you spread out the increases, however big or small they are, over a period of time, it gives people the opportunity to come and participate and to examine the budget in a way where they can examine the structural deficiencies that exist in the budget. So although you have a difficult job, you can't divorce from the politics of this, which is that these increases always come in non-competitive election years. And the great irony of it is that every year is almost non-competitive. You guys always win. It's never, Chris Schneider's going to win easily this year. We all know that. But the increase happens in a year when there's particularly no interest from the other side to fight or to compete. So my advice, and I didn't think I was coming here for a job interview, but I'm happy to help out. Everybody knows in the private sector, you don't slam an increase, even if it's $5 or $65, whether it's 12% or 5%, you spread it out over a period of time. And certainly, please, I don't run on the campaign that the taxes have been frozen for 3 out of 4 years. The fourth year you made it up. And that's what happens. So if you want to take out the politics of this, budget better and communicate better. And I'll echo what everyone else said. There's no need for postage. There's no need for mailings. I mean, nobody looks at that stuff anymore. But budget efficiently in such a way that the increases are spread out so that we can examine and say, listen, it went up 2% this year. Why did it go up when we got all this COVID money? But by waiting until the end, or the end of your term or whatever, when there's a non-competitive time, all you're doing is make it more difficult for us to budget accordingly. If you see, I mean, this is my caution, if you see someone say, there's no tax increase, please budget for a tax increase. It's like when they say no offense, they're going to offend you. When they say there's no tax increase, budget next year for double the tax increase that you're budgeting this year, because 0 equals twice next year or 3 times in 2 years. So, and that's what we see in the private sector all the time. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys do better.
Thank you, Ray, and thanks for the nice comments about Chris. That was very thoughtful of you. Jane Finkelstein?
Jane Finkelstein, Wantagh, New York.
Welcome back. How you doing? All right. Name and address. Thanks.
Wantagh, New York. I just was astounded because I do not get the Newsday and I don't get News 12. So people in my community know I have a big mouth and I'll come here. So they all contact me to let me know that they saw that the town board agreed to a 5% raise for themselves and that we are getting a 12% increase on our taxes. I live in Levittown School District, as Dennis knows, where we have very, very high taxes. And this becomes a serious issue. You prided yourself on never raising taxes. Well, never raising taxes and then go to 12% in a time where we're in an election where the number one reason is, one of the important reasons is the economy. And you have seniors here that you supposedly care about, and I know you do. Dennis is one of them. But how do you expect kids He is. I salute him for that reason. But how do you expect veterans, how do you expect kids like my kids that went to school here and are looking to buy a house, and then the PSENG, and then the water? I just, thank you. I just don't get it. And the transparency. How can you, and correct me if I'm wrong, how can you put this up 2 days before you're going to vote on it, and then you give us this? Do you think I could really read this? And how much did this cost too? And who could read it? And I almost was astounded that you're voting on it today or tomorrow. I don't know what. Can you somebody? I'm like amazed. You're supposed to care about the community. The transparency is zilch, because I know how many people in the Levittown School District are veterans. I know how many people in my community in Forest City, which you people love, know nothing about this. And you don't hear $5. You hear 12%. And is it verified that you guys got a 5% raise? Can somebody answer me that question? And since I have more time, can somebody answer me that? Will they stop the clock or what?
Jen,
Don't you stop the clock?
Just to clarify one thing, I presented this budget like 3 weeks ago, right?
October 1st.
October 1st. So I, the illusion that, again, somebody maybe portrayed to you that, oh, we put it out 2 days ago, it just isn't true.
It was on Newsday, wasn't it?
Listen, I don't read that paper by choice, and like I said to you, and the fact that, sometimes, and I don't want anybody to be accused, sometimes the media has a tendency on both sides of the aisle to misrepresent some things. You came down, John said to you, if you live in the village of Hempstead, it's $5.
It's town.
If it's
what is the town of Hempstead?
he said it's
what is
it is
school district?
it is.
What is it?
I don't control your school district. Listen,
Montauk, New York.
well, again, Wanta, John said it's $5 a month. It's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
I do not live in the village. The town.
No, that's where you live, in Wanta, in the Levittown School District. John, it is $5 a month. Is that correct?
Okay.
It's Ms. Meredith, please, you've had your chance. That's why I say to you.
I have 42 more minutes.
Absolutely, 42 more minutes to break my heart.
I support you guys. I'm at a lot of places. But now, when I see that big Micklin sign or whatever, all these humongous signs, when I have to go down Montauk Avenue, maybe you should cut your correspondence or whatever, your budget to print. Because that, I'd like to know how much it costs. Because you have a ton of humongous signs in my neighborhood. And it's going to go red anyway. So I don't even understand why it's needed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So I really would appreciate before you sign on. I don't know how you do the budget. That maybe there are some ways. Maybe there could be less. I don't know what to tell you, but it is not fair to the people in this community who have lived here for years and years.
Thank you, Ms. Maxine. Carol Hanna. Good afternoon, Ms. Hanna. If you just give your name and address to the record, thanks.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Hanna, and I live in North Valley Stream. And this is my first time here. And I was concerned because you have on your agenda that about the proposal to enact 10E so that you can raise the property taxes above the limit on this meeting, but you're not covering that on the 7 o'clock meeting. And I thought that was interesting. It looks like that you would need to pass that before you can actually do your 12%. And just in these few moments, I heard this gentleman in the middle say that, oh, it's only going to be $5 a year. And I just heard you say it's going to be $5 a month. He said $5 a year first.
Well, actually, what I said was if you lived in Valley Stream, the village, it's.
I don't live in the village.
No, I know, but it would be $5. If you live in Levittown, like the young lady did, and the other one, it's $5 a month because village residents pay the village portion. But that's the number, that's the reality of it.
So my property tax at 4.9% looks like it'll increase to $220.
Which it won't. We said the controller did.
And at 12% would be $540.
And I said to you that was the problem with what some people put out there to galvanize. That's not the reality of it. And that's the important distinction that everybody always needs to know. You know, the control, I'm sorry, you, please. When the controller puts forth these records, he actually pulls out the tax bills and he'll do the analysis. And we were going through it before. He pulled out a bill from Valley Stream. I think it was his own house. And it was $5 more for the year. And then, but a village resident pays a village tax. And then when he pulled out the bill for the Levittown resident, it came out to $5 a month. And that's why I said, you know, when you see like a headline splashed out there, well, people naturally assume it's the entire tax bill. That's why I said, like, when you look at the information we try and put on these tax bills, because I was a receiver of tax for a long time, it's to get people the understanding that it's made to look one way. Case in point, News 12 came yesterday, and in the morning they were like, oh, this, you know, they were following this crazy headline from some paper. By the evening, they are actually doing the proper thing in news and saying it's $5 for an incorporated village resident and $5 for a non-incorporated resident, because, but you know, for once a month, once a year, depending on where you live. But that's what I said to you. You know, you have a lot of people that they naturally assume, and it's a natural progression that you said, oh, 10%, and they think of the whole bill. And that's why we stress to people. I mean, last week when those new figures came out, I'd say to people, your town taxes are 4% of your overall bill. And in honesty, in the town, listen, we work together. We're bipartisan in this township. We do it all together. And I can tell you this right now. We're proud of the AAA bond rating. We take a lot of pride in that. We have the highest bond rating on the land. And we do roads, we do parks, we do beaches, we do the great senior citizen program, we do Camp Anchor. I really say to people, when you look at what you get for that 4%, I'm very, very proud of it. And I think we work really, really hard. And like I said, we do it in a bipartisan era. And that's why I don't want you thinking, I took my number and I added my whole tax bill, because that's a natural reaction somebody would have, that when someone throws out a headline trying to sell something, that's what they do. They try and spark up that controversy, anger. But when the reality hits, you know, it's just a little bit different. You know, it really is. When I go down for a cup of coffee this morning, I had a neighbor say to me, and then when we talked for a little while, they're like, oh, okay, you know what, thank you very much. Because I said to them, you know, you get all this outrage, you know, congestion pricing to go to Lower Manhattan would be like $15 just for one-way trip. Just a one-way trip is $15. So both ways, you look at like $30 round trip down there. And, you know, the faux rage that no one gave out there. And I say to you, for that $5, we are maintaining our fiscal responsibility in the town and really, and I think providing the best services of anybody on Long Island. I really do. And I'll tell you right now, I would put it up. I know they were teasing Dennis on his age. I would tell you to come down to our Thriving Senior program. I would tell you to come visit Camp Anchor. I would tell you to go to Point Lookout. I would tell you to go to our nature preserves. I would tell you to go visit what used to be the world's worst building department and go visit our best building department in Long Island. We've got a lot to do, and I'm doing it for 4% of all the property taxes. And that's why it's important. What your statement was, I totally resonated with that, because that's the impression people were given. But the reality is just a little different, and I do appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, I would hope that if this is all recorded and that the end point is more than $5, then understand that my husband and I, who both voted for you, even though we're not Republican, we've made a list of all the people on this board to not vote for next voting season if your $5 amount doesn't come to fruition.
Okay. All right.
I give up my time.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Bunmi Ujabel. How you doing? Your name and address of the record. Thanks.
So my name is Bumi Ojubala. I live in Valley Stream. I'm just going to make a comment first. The gentleman indicated that he was protecting taxpayers by using reserves. I think the right way to protect taxpayers is to actually inform them when you're about to use reserves, for it's still their taxpayers' money. So I think it's appropriate to inform them when you're dipping into reserves. That's the first comment I have. It's like I'm walking down the street and money is falling out of my pocket, and someone is walking behind me, and he says he's protecting me by picking up my money, right? But not telling me that I have a leaking pocket, right? He's not protecting me. He's still using my money. And there's also the issue of, wrong information, excuse me, wrong information being put out there by the media. But I think that, your office has the, the responsibility, to mitigate that by being transparent. I think if you're transparent upfront, it will be more difficult for the media to put out the wrong information. And secondly, you have a Department of Information and Technology under your office. So if wrong information is put out there, I think it's your responsibility also to correct that information immediately, instead of leaving it out there to, continue to spread. And then at the meeting, claim that I know nothing about it. I don't think that's fair to the public. And the question I have is, I still don't understand if it's $5 a month or $5 a year for those who live in the incorporated, and $65 for the whole year for those who don't live in an incorporated village. So I still don't know what the numbers are.
Do you live in the incorporated village of Valley Stream or the non-incorporated part?
I live in the unincorporated.
Unincorporated. So, John, it would be an average of $5 a month for the non-incorporated village residents of Valley Stream? $65. Okay. So it's $5 a month for the unincorporated, because the village resident pays a separate tax. They pay a village tax.
Correct.
So that would be $5 a month. $5 a year for the incorporated village resident.
Okay. All right. Now, is anyone, do you think you have any obligation to actually help the residents of town of Hempstead and Long Island to actually recoup some of the money that we lost through SALT instead of adding more money to our taxes?
That's a federal tax issue that deals with income taxes.
Do you think you have any obligation to at least help us, work towards that, rather than put more money on us? More taxes on us.
Again, that's a federal income tax issue. We have no control over that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, I have John Duff. John Duff? Okay. Stacy Richardson?
Good
How you doing? Name and address, thanks.
Thank you. Stacy Richardson, Hempstead, New York. I am spellbound in what I've been hearing, and the concerns that our residents are real. Food is expensive, everything is expensive. But what no one has spoken about is, what did the town of Hempstead cut before they got to the 5%, the 4% increase? Another thing you did not speak about: how many entities in the town of Hempstead are tax-free? How many more pilot programs will you be implementing in the future? Who is accounting for the transparency of the pilot programs that are here right now? I look at your budget, and an average person can't understand it, even in the simplest form. Residents have been getting an increase, not just in the town and the village. They're getting now in their school budget. And right now, it's very difficult for them to even understand even if it's simplistic to you, it's not to them. We see dollars and cents, and we break it down every day. So when you raise your taxes, it may be inconsequential to you, but for us, it's an everyday thing where our pay doesn't equal the $5 increase that we get. Some of us don't get an increase, or we already got it and it's not going to go up anymore. So I say this to say, and I'm very quick and to the point, even though you do have the ability to make the decision in the best interest of the residents, you must take into account what better you can do besides just raising taxes. There are other things that can be looked at. One more thing before I close. In your budget, in Uniondale School District, in which I pay, and I'm an incorporated village taxpayer, so it affects me more. When I actually, right now, I help out with the Little League. Uniondale has 3 parks. There is no lights for the kids to play at night games. None. And we have asked and we have tried to meet to discuss this. But in other towns, you can go and they have lights. So we ask you to please consider not just the 5%.
Ms. Richardson, I will ask you,
else.
Kyle Megan right there is going to, Ms. Richardson, Kyle Megan's going to grab a little information from you for a little follow-up, but thank you very much for coming out today. Lisa Ortiz?
I think she left.
Okay. Lynn Krug? What do you do when you give your name and address to the record? Thank you.
My name is Lynn Krug, the Incorporated Village of Garden City. So I'm one of the lucky ones who won't get a tax increase that's huge. I do read Newsday, and the proposed tax budget of $42.1 million is an eye-opener, and that's why I came today. You called the tax hike a modest, positive adjustment to property-based revenues. You were quoted. Earlier this year, the town board increased spending on salaries for elected officials, giving raises of up to 14% this year and making future raises automatic. Instead of prudently raising taxes by the inflation rate each year, this board freezes taxes. And that's why we're caught up in this mess. And 5 years later, the budget blows up and we are in the same mess. Why has the town of Hempstead been using federal pandemic relief COVID funds to balance its budget, despite tax revenues staying essentially flat at the same time spending has grown? Now it's caught up to the board. In 2024, the town planned to use the $56 million in reserves to balance its budget. It's unclear if reserves will be used in the 2025 budget. I was the budget administrator for Con Edison's auditing department and one of the ethics officers. Yeah, so 45 years, so I know a thing or two about budgeting. When I retired, I had to rein in expenses and cut down wasteful spending as part of my job as a budget administrator. And I don't believe the town spokesman, Brian Devine, who said that the town has aggressively controlled costs that are within the town's discretion while employing cost-saving measures to offset the impacts of increases. For starters, I know how to reduce spending and cut taxes. And it's really budgeting 101. How come I get all these flyers and I have a whole collection here, okay? Everyone gets these. And I'm really concerned that some of them are duplicates. Why are you telling me about a car rally and then you find it in the fall book. Why am I getting invites to the Valentine's Day gala? Kate Murray sponsors this to renew my vows at the choral house. Okay? That's a waste of money. And then mostly, I'm really disturbed by this immunization program that I received from you. I had my flu shot and COVID shot over a month ago, and now you're sponsoring this with U.S. Congressman
Okay,
Anthony
thank you very much.
Diaz-Padilla.
I don't have any other slips on item number 2. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard that did not sign in? Sure. If you come on up to the back and give your name and address, that'd be great. How you doing? Afternoon, name and address. Thank you.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I see the animal shelter budget has gone up again. Just a quick question, or a few actually. If the board does approve or consider a privatization, how will that reflect on this budget? Can someone please let me know that?
Yeah, can't speculate on it. Like I said, we have the RFP out, we have an ongoing, and we're waiting to see if there is any savings on the analysis of it. When we do, we'll have the public hearing and you'll be informed.
I'm sorry, Supervisor, I couldn't hear you.
I said, we're currently doing the analysis, see if there is going to be a budgetary savings on it. So
Okay,
until the
thank
analysis,
you.
no, we can't do it. But we'll let you know, I promise you on that.
Thank you so much. I would like to know if this budget includes the contracted veterinary expenses. The reason I'm asking that is because my understanding last year, the budget went up by $1 million due to some of the debt for contracted veterinarians, which I must add that if you hired full-time vet, 24-hour vet, you would spend probably 80% less than that. But again, is the budget still the same because there's still $1 million outstanding?
John?
Budget does make provisions for Dr. Singh, $170,000, and we've got health, the Wantor Animal Hospital for $200,000, the West Hills Animal Hospital for $50,000, Veterinary Emergency Group for $50,000, and Pet Vet for $400,000. Does that answer your question?
In addition to the budget, you're saying?
No, it's in the budget.
It's in the budget. Okay, yes, thank you. But again, please consider privatization to bring some of those numbers down because it's really, in my opinion, wasteful. And in addition to that number being wasteful, my understanding is that the town did hire a photographer for the animal shelter at $75 an hour who had previously done it for free. So that's concerning and troubling because you do have volunteers that are willing to do those kinds of tasks for free.
Okay.
I am going to say the same thing I said when I ran for office against you and Laura Gillen, and by no means am I suggesting she would have done a better job. In fact, I'm convinced she would not have. But I think it's important, and I think this board owes it to the taxpayers to bring in, as I suggested, outside, independent, like that lovely lady that just spoke, fiscal advisors that have no hidden agenda, they have no obligations, they have no loyalty to any party, whether it's Democratic or Republican. I think it's time to bring in outsiders because I think if you were raising these taxes by $5 a month, which it seems controversial, I can't really understand that. It went from 12% to 5%. I'm, again, confused about that number and not feeling very certain, but I do feel strongly that you need to bring in outside, independent financial advisors that have no motives, they have no loyalty to a party, and I think that this issue can be fixed. And I agree that it's time to give the public a choice as to whether they want to be emailed the information or receive. Let them opt out of these mailers. They really are, not to mention they're wasteful to the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Hazel Gibbons? No running. No running. Come on. You don't have to run. Come on. Stop. Power walking. How you
I'm
doing? Good
just a
afternoon. Name and
senior,
address.
and I managed to do that. I'd like to stay in the town, of course, but things keep increasing. I have one question for you. A speaker came here before and asked a question, did you give yourselves a 5% increase? None of you responded. No one answered. There's now 2 minutes and 39 seconds left for you guys to answer.
Ms. Gibbons, right now we're dealing with the budget. If you have a question regarding the budget, that's fine.
You still didn't answer the
Ms.
question.
Gibbons, we've had hearings before on the matter. We've had people come down on it. If you have a question regarding the budget, that's what today's all about.
Is it written in? Is it projected? Let us know.
What's that? No, Ms. Gibbons, like I said, do you have a question regarding the budget?
Okay, here's the other question that really concerns me. Someone else mentioned that $1 million or so was spent for to support the Trump rally. Is that true?
I have no idea what you're referring to. I guess that's probably...
Was Nassau, did we have any dealings with that?
No.
That's what I want to know. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Ms. Gibbons. Thank you very much. And Lamont Johnson.
We don't give money to the public. I know that.
Good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon, Lamont Johnson, 12 Roosevelt Street in the village of Hempstead. I just want to make a brief statement in regards to the Deputy Town Supervisor, Dorothy Goolsby, senior woman, Dorothy Goolsby. When it comes to whatever raise or whatever the people that day is, whatever raise you receive, I want to say on behalf of, in my opinion, on the village of Hempstead, Dorothy Goolsby has always went above and beyond any call of duty. She has attended every event, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. She has always given back to the community. When people are acknowledged in the village of Hempstead for doing great things, she was always there. She always gives a citation. So I just want to say on behalf of myself, and I believe most people in the village of Hempstead, she goes above and beyond. So whatever raise that she may have been given, she definitely deserved it. So I just wanted to say that. And
very nice. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I'm saying this as a lifelong village resident. We really appreciate all she has done for the village of Hempstead and surrounding communities. She always fights for the village of Hempstead. When they had a problem with the water, she was one of the people that was called down to speak on behalf of better water quality in the village of Hempstead. She has always been there for the Hempstead School District. She was one of the few people years ago that spoke about us having children in the portables, and I'm happy to say we removed most of those portables, and it was because of people like her that was concerned that helped us to do what we needed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, I've had the pleasure of working with the deputy supervisor since 2001, and she's a staunch friend and an advocate for her district like none other. And that's why when I decided to have a deputy supervisor, I reached out to her immediately, and the town board recognized it and unanimously voted for that. She's, like I said, we work bipartisan here. We work with friends across the aisle, with Senator Schumer, if need be, down in D.C., or anybody else. And I appreciate it. It's very nice comment you make, because I say it all the time. I work with very nice people, and Dorothy in particular is very, very special. So thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. So I don't have any other slips on item number 2. Anybody wish to be heard to not speak on this item? Okay. Oh, if you go to the back there and give your name and address. Hi.
My name is Patricia Charles. I'm the president of August Civic Association in Elmont. I just want to say this. First of all, let me say this. I'm a senior citizen. I have a fixed income. While you guys are getting salary increases, I have to live on a fixed income. And I am literally at the point where I'm thinking of going back to my home in the Caribbean and just live there, because I can't afford to live in Nassau County. So to you, that 5%, 4%, whatever it is you're saying, $5 a month, It may seem like nothing to somebody who's living on a fixed income, who's retired. It's a lot. $2 is a lot. Okay. So, I ask you guys to look deep within and try to figure out if there are other things you can do before you pass this increase, because it is not that easy. You guys have to realize that not everybody's making the income you're getting. And I understand the gentleman saying that Miss Gooseby does a lot of good things. That's wonderful. That's what we send politicians there for. But I would say that you guys don't realize how this is impacting us. And let me say one more thing before I finish. How in an election year, this is what worries me, and I don't care about who's Democrat and who is Republican, but how in an election year we're advocating for this increase while we're criticizing the former supervisor for raising taxes. And now we're doing an increase and we're trying to whitewash it. We're trying to minimize it. We're trying to, oh, well, it's only $5 a month. $5 a month on my little fixed income, that's too much. I went from a corporate six-figure salary to a fixed income. So that makes a big difference to me. So I ask you guys to, isn't this a bit hypocritical? And what are we to expect? What are we to expect in next year, the year after, when there's not an election year? And what I fear that you guys are going to do is you're going to raise these taxes, and then you're going to go next year and you're going to freeze them and say, oh, well, pat my back because I froze these taxes. No, you raise it. So I'm not going to come here and whitewash and let people get away with that stuff. That $5 a month, that makes a lot to me. I literally have to look at, I have a home in the Caribbean. I should probably just go there because I can't afford Nassau County. So think about that when you're making your decision. For you, you're getting your salary increases. We're living on fixed income, some of us. And we have a lot of issues not being addressed. And I have to believe that you guys can find some other way to try to get this increase, the funds that you need, than trying to increase people's taxes in any way.
Charles, I thought I saw someone else up there wanted to speak that didn't send. If you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Chris Jacobs, Uniondale, New York. Concerning item number 2, when it talks about increasing salaries and a lot of good nonsense. As a Uniondale resident, again, it's all you mentioned before, there's a lot of things that we lack in services and other particular things. I heard you mention, Supervisor, that Town of Hempstead does beaches, parks, senior centers, housing complex, but you don't do water towers, because I have a leaky water tower right down the street from my house that's dilapidated and hasn't been touched in 30 years. So as a person who lives in Uniondale and also in reality, my representative has never talked to me about how she plans on fixing my water tower or any other issues in my community. So hopefully going forward, for a person who lives in a disadvantaged community, I would just like to see increased services for us. I know we get our sanitation picked up. We get our street swept once a month at best. And I just hopefully going forward that this will be a precipice towards improvement at the way the Town of Hempstead works within our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. It's always nice to see you. Any other people want to talk on item number 2 that did not already? Okay, if not, may I have a motion?
I make a motion that we close the meeting.
Adjourn until tonight? And
Adjourn until 7 tonight.
I'm sorry, the councilwoman's making a motion. You don't have to yell. We haven't called it yet, so that's why we don't need to scream out there. So, Councilwoman, you were making a motion on number 2.
Yeah, I'm making a motion on number 2.
So, before you were interrupted, what were you making a motion to adjourn until 7 p.m.?
Adjourn until 7 p.m.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Supervisor Clayton. Aye. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the preliminary budget of the Town of Hempstead for fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, if not, the first person assigned in, Lamont Johnson. Lamont, all right. Next I have Hazel Gibbons. Okay. Ms. Krug? You asked to be heard on number 3? Good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Lynn Krug, Incorporated Village of Garden City. In April, Moody's Investor Service, a Wall Street credit agency, warned Hempstead that it could see its a AA bond rating downgraded if it continued to enact structurally imbalanced budgets that rely on the use of reserves to support ongoing operations. The rating agency revised its credit outlook for the town from stable to negative, signaling that the rating could even go down. The town has relied on available reserves to balance budgets in recent years and has failed to implement either revenue enhancements of expenditure reductions, resulting in declining financial flexibility. Have any audit reports discussed any material weakness identifying the failure to issue audits for prior fiscal years, in which the town is required to issue those within 60 days of year end? If not, why not?
John,
Do your auditors issue anything?
well, I think the controller was going to give you an answer there.
Yeah, we've issued audit reports every year. Currently, the audit is still not completed for some reasons that have to do with the audit firm and for a new computer system. And we think within the next couple of weeks, we should have the audit complete.
Because when you identify material weaknesses, you can attack them and work on them to improve your financial stability. The other issue I have is the revelation about D'Esposito's affairs, which underscores the pervasiveness of patronage in Nassau County and the town of Hempstead. The case of Devin Foss, F-A-A-S, who collected $2,000 a month for a part-time job in D'Esposito's district office, despite continuing to work full-time for the town budget. It identifies ethics issues. Have you looked into this salary issue? Is she a no-show? How can she work two jobs?
If I'm not mistaken, she doesn't work here anymore.
Well, she was. She was on the payroll. It says that she's still employed by the town of Hempstead.
Well,
so I think
she's not.
Deserve answers.
She's not.
Was she terminated because you found a conflict of interest?
Ms. Krug,
I'm an ethics officer.
Please, if you listen, if you want to talk about the budget, I respect it. I don't want to get into the details of people's personal lives. That's terrible. Listen, she doesn't work for the town. End of story. What, do you have a question regarding this budget, or are you just looking to throw that out for whatever reason?
For the town, she has.
But she's not working for the town.
And a salary is a.
But she's not working for the town anymore.
When did she stop working?
I couldn't tell you. But what does that have to do with the town budget?
Well, I think she's still working here. That's what I've researched.
Okay. Okay, we'll call the next person. Thank you so much. Lisa Ortiz. Okay. I can still go through it. It'd be nice. John Duff. Okay. Bonmi Ojebele.
Yeah, I just.
How you doing now? Name and address again.
Romeo Jubilee Valley Stream. By any chance, would you consider postponing voting on this budget so that more people can have a hearing or a say in what's going on?
We're having the hearing right now, and we're having another hearing this evening. I can't predict what's going to happen later on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Ray Aurora.
I spoke before. My only question is, can you give us some guidance on to what next year's budget looks like, and are you projecting any increases in taxes next year?
But can't project on next year.
When would be the earliest that we would get insight into a projection, at least, about next year?
We usually do it around, what was it?
The next budget is due to be presented on September 30th of 2025.
Understood. Do we have is there a guidance you can give us before then?
Right now we're working on this budget, so, and next year we'll work it.
I'm presuming this budget's going to be approved, whether people like it.
I'm not going to predict, but like I said, I don't look into the crystal ball. The only people that do that is,
With all respect, Supervisor, every financial plan or any financial budgeting person knows you have to project.
Right now we're dealing with this budget hearing, so.
To the residents, I'm just asking if you can give them guidance. You're looking at whether it's 12%
And the answer
or
is,
5%.
not right now. I'm not going to speculate or guess for
Finish my
anybody.
sentence. If the answer is 12% this year or 5% or whatever the number is this year, people should be prepared that it may or may not go up next year. As somebody who does this for a living.
No, Mr. Rohr, no, it doesn't work that way.
How does it work, Supervisor?
Mr. Rohr, I'm trying to answer your question.
Yeah.
We're talking about this budget right here.
No, I understand that.
Okay,
What I'm
good.
trying to say is that, can we project?
No.
Can you give us an indication?
No.
So it might be nothing, it might be a lot.
No, no,
Plan
that's
accordingly.
right. You asked for protection. I gave you the answer. No, there's no wiggle room there. It's
Let
no,
me
we're
give you
not going to.
let me give you the right answer.
Okay.
Most people understand that one crisis that we have in this country right now is the cost of insurance. So an answer that could have been given was, well, we're seeing costs across insurance explode across the country. One can anticipate that the town of Hempstead is not immune to this increase, and therefore there might be some vulnerability with that particular line item. We can't project exactly what it's going to be, but we're concerned about that. That would be an answer. Thank you very
Is
much.
that sort of like saying we're budgeting, and all of a sudden, the last minute, we were told by New York State we have to come up with millions of dollars extra?
No,
Mr. Roy, you asked what you wanted to give a hypothetical. I like this. That we were basically told by New York State you have to come up with extra millions of dollars of health insurance and extra $1 million in pension costs. Okay, can you predict for that? Can you look at a year of that, or did that just get dropped on us?
With what's going on with the stock market, I was shocked that they
Okay. So that's why I said we're dealing with this budget now. When we get into next year's budget, I know you're going to be here. We'll look forward to having the discussion then.
The question was not to be, adversarial. It was just a question of, do you see anything that would concern you for next year's budget? That really what the question was. I know you get to
everything concerns me.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Claudia Swansea. Okay. Mita Meriday. We're going through the names that are called. And, oh no, hold on. I understand. If this is how it's presented, if your name's on the list, I'm going to go through, and if not, we're still going to give you an opportunity. But the next thing that came up on the sign-in sheet was Miss Meriday. Hi, Miss Meriday.
Good afternoon. Mita J. Meriday. Again, my 3 minutes, I'm not going to try to wax poetic and try to, beg and plead and get you all to delay this situation. And more than likely, I won't be able to, come tonight. So I wanted to get this over with and get up out of here. And if there's anybody listening, watching, or focusing on this, my call at this point, as I said, as I closed out for item 2, is that I'm really looking for not necessarily justice or resonance here, but I would like to say that, again, we talked about the mailings and the lack of presence in Baldwin, which is now cut in half due to a very illegal, inappropriate redistricting process. But we have now 2 representatives in Baldwin who are, like ghosts in that community, which has so many issues. With regard to this budget, for those who think that their pleas are going to be heard, bear in mind it won't. By the time, those residents who get off of those 2 jobs, or the family members that they have to take care of, both older and younger, to squeeze time to come in here and possibly try to present some layers of wisdom for those who sit before me with the friends and family plan. And I'm still objecting to the fact that I literally have to stand towards the back of the room, again, with a bad back. And you have residents that, like you said, don't run around here to speak, when previously we were able to sit before the board in some level of comfort, which is still a problem for me. I'm calling on state and federal representation to review all of this process, because I'm one of the few that shows up for the county meetings as well. And, that $100 million increase in their budget is also going to be challenging for us. But if we don't speak up on a regular basis, the fact that they use those COVID funds not to support the residents, and the ones in Baldwin who still have to possibly take 2 buses to maybe a cooling center in Merrick, we don't have those wide range senior services or veteran services that you boast about, Supervisor. But I'm calling on them to investigate exactly where our dollars are going. How many relatives? Newsday started out with that patronage and nepotism, but they didn't go far enough, because that's a series, to do a whole family tree as to how many relatives, friends, wives, ex-wives, girlfriends, fiancés, daughters, and sons are on the payroll and may not necessarily have the skill set for the jobs that they have. I'm opposing this budget. You're not going to table the budget. You're going to vote for the budget. But again, we need judicial action to protect the interests of our residents and to do better for our veterans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Claudia Barecki. Your name and address for the record, thank you.
28 Washington Drive, Merrick, New York. My issue has always been this deviant scheme that you have of freezing taxes in the years that you're running, and then raising the taxes in the years that you're not. The fact that Chris Schneider is not here, the only one running for election in November, just exemplifies the deceitfulness that he's running for office and he doesn't even have the courage to be here to stand a vote on whether they should pass the budget. And then I'll go back to my letter. All right. So does the town notify the public back in February that it approved raises of up to 14% for themselves and their friends and relatives who work for the town? While Hempstead council members' salaries are almost twice as much as council members in our neighboring towns. Town of North Hempstead, their council salaries are $49,000. What are yours? Are you up to $90,000? Anyway, and you have the nerve to give yourselves raises, already making twice as much as your neighboring towns. So this, nevertheless, this pursuit of its covert tax hike, tax freeze strategy, it misleads the public by scheduling the vote to exceed the cap just hours before the vote to increase our taxes. Considering the town's covert attempt to implement, whether it's 12.1 or 5 or 6% tax increase in a non-election year, its disregard for the financial challenges of residents in this high-tax area by arrogantly awarding themselves pay raises, and its inability to identify cost savings to reduce the tax loft. The Belmont Merrick Democratic Club requests that the town rescind its salary increase, drastically reduce its mail budget, clean out its patronage mill, and delay the vote until a 2025 budget is proposed that serves the public's best interest and does not fill the trough of the friends and relatives it employs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I have Patty Ayers. Patty Ayers. Good afternoon. Name and address of the record. Thanks.
Patty Harris, Town of Hempstead. I would like to know how come on your mailers that you said you had said that the Esposito is not on the board. So why is we constantly seeing him on the mail flyers? And why did everybody agree to give him $18,000 to his campaign? Was that something that was voted on from the communities?
Do you have a question regarding this budget?
Excuse me?
Do you have a question regarding today's budget?
Yes. It says in 24, so $18,000.
I don't know. I really don't know what you're referring to. Is it what page is that in the budget?
I don't know what pages it is. I would like to know, where is it coming from?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's on his website that the town of Hempstead gave him $18,000. If that's wrong, then you need to call the Attorney General then.
Again, I don't know what you're referring to. Is there something in regards to the budget?
Okay. Am I speaking English or what? Because I said it states that $18,000 was donated to Esposito. And you're also promoting him on the mail flyers. Why are you giving $18,000? Are you saying that we, as the town of Hempstead, is backing him? Because there are other parties that people are backing. We're not just backing him. So are you able to put other people that are running on your mail flyers?
Again, do you have a question regarding the budget?
How much are you spending on mail flyers? How much are you predicting to spend on mail flyers for 24-25? How about that? Is that enough of a question to ask?
John?
All right, we'll get it. Okay, all right, it's on page 47. We have an allocation, just of general postage for the entire town of $3 million.
Okay.
How much?
He has a general postage budget of $3 million.
Okay, so
That's for the whole town, including taxes?
That's for postage that I would have, postage that anybody would have.
That's for all departments' postage. Tax bills, everything. It's tax bills and tax receipts, because you guys sent the tax bill and tax receipt.
So where is the money that's coming out for 24-25 to be donated to a party? To a person?
I don't know of that line in the budget.
There's no line. First of all, we cannot do that, and there is no line for it.
Well, it's on his website, so there must be a problem then.
Okay, maybe, I guess you'd have to call him.
Why? I should call him. He don't even come to our town, so why would I call him? I'm asking you because it states the town of Hempstead gave him $18,000, $18,834.
Again, I don't know what you're referring to, so I can't answer the question, but thank you very much for coming out today. Next I have Pearl
I'll
Jacobs.
call the district attorney and ask her to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Next I have Pearl Jacobs. Oh, we got this confirmation. How you doing? Name and address again, thanks.
Pearl Jacobs, Town of Hempstead, Uniondale. Okay, so here we go again. So we know the issues that are affecting our budget negatively, and that would be nepotism, cronyism, jobs for relatives, splintered government, lack of oversight, funds that need to be earmarked, and discriminatory practices. And I just want to speak a little bit about Uniondale. So Uniondale is a donor community. We have the third largest tax revenue base in the county because our corporate neighbors, and it expands all the way out to Roosevelt Field and elsewhere. We receive those taxes are in Uniondale's district, but they don't come to our community. They do not come to our community. They go and they're going to a general fund, and they go everywhere else except for Uniondale, and except for Roosevelt, except for Lakeview. It goes everywhere else except for communities of color. We can't even we have the third largest tax revenue in the town of Hempstead, okay? And we can't even get our water tower fixed. This is our water tower as it looks now. We call it, in Uniondale, we call it Old Rusty. We gave it a nickname, Old Rusty. It's leaking, it's corroded, it's appalling. It stands right next to a Uniondale Middle School, Turtle Hook Middle School. I even had children, I'm a community leader, so sometimes I meet with the children. They even ask, is that where our water comes from? And why does it look like that? A kid asked me one time, he says, I've never seen a water tower that looks like that before. Why hasn't it been painted? Why can't they fix our water? I can't answer that because I have no representation. We have no representation. We are neglected. Town of Hempstead, I hate to say this, although I have so many friends and people here that I love of all races. I don't see color. The town of Hempstead is a racist town, okay? And hopefully things will get fixed. There'll be oversight. Funds will be earmarked, okay? Things will turn around. And yes, Anthony D'Esposito shows where the town of Hempstead gave him $18,834 for his campaign, okay? I'll send you the link. And hopefully things will turn around when we have Laura Gillen as our new congressperson. Thank you.
Okay, Jane Nicholsieg?
Hi. I would just like to make a recommendation moving forward. Being that there's so much misinformation from Newsday and News 12, and the numbers aren't correct, and people aren't aware of what they're going to be paying, I strongly suggest, like, this is not going to change, in terms of monies down the road. I would greatly, greatly appreciate if you give enough time to educate the people so they know what's in their bill moving forward. 2 days, I don't think, is very fair. And that's what transparency is about. And if there's anything I learned in Levittown School District, it was about transparency. So I would greatly appreciate it if, moving forward, next year's budget, maybe you could have the meetings like you do about the taxes, about the budget, instead of me having a million people call me to say, what's going on, what's going on? They don't understand the budget anyway. So maybe you could do some sort of educational seminar on how to understand the budget. So we won't be shocked when 2 days from now, we get an announcement next year, 2 days prior. So I would appreciate that. The other thing is, I just hear all these people talking about, the money spent. And listen, I'm not going to combat my political views, but I know those people very well and like them very much. But I think the cost that is paid for all those, I'm going to reiterate again, all those signs in the very small distance that I live in is not acceptable. You could do a better job at that. And the same way you have to get the sanitation department to come pick them up, which you do. But if you had less of them in a smaller radius, you wouldn't need it's simple. You wouldn't need as many garbage men to come pick them up. So I think moving forward, you should consider that. And I think I strongly suggest, please, because people get annoyed. I'm going to tell you right now about all those signs everywhere. They're not happy about it where I live. The other thing is, in terms of school taxes, which I don't know what part, Hempstead, I know Hempstead is different, but there's something you should be aware of. When people have a large increase in their taxes, then they start to have illegal apartments in their basements, which then in turn increases school taxes. So that is another issue that's been talked about, I know, in my district for years, which we can't get a handle on. I'm not blaming the town of Hempstead because we've been through this. But due to these amnesty programs that I believe are coming in here, where everybody gets free phone, free whatever, I was wondering, does the town of Hempstead have anything to do with it? Because I know they're in our schools. I wonder if you could answer that question for me? In regards to the amnesty program, which is a federal program, but I know they come here.
We have nothing to do with the amnesty programs going run by our federal government.
I know, but you will verify that it has to do with some of the schools here, correct?
The school districts control themselves. I know that some school districts have been very aggressive on it, and in some have re-registered all students. They did in Valley Stream over a decade ago, where I think they had about 100+ students who didn't even live in Valley Stream going to school. So I would urge you to go to school board meeting and have them maybe re-register the students to verify their current address. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving forward, if you think about it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your kind thoughts and your advice. Karen Montalbano?
I'm sorry to interrupt for a moment. Jane and I have very similar names. I'm Jane Nicholsberg. She's Jane Nicholstein. You call Jane Nicholson.
Well, Nicholsberg is who I called out, and Jane jumped to the mic, so that's okay. That's all right. You've done it like 5 times, but I still like you. All right, so why don't we let you go? Her name's really Barbara, but that's okay. So go on, Jane. We'll go.
Okay, I'm Jane Nicholsberg in Point Lookout. Over a year ago, I noticed the amount of Town of Hempstead mailings I was receiving, and I began saving them from January of this year. Clearly, I've been impressed with the number of Mr. Clavin's name and photos printed on each of these, which, by the way, weigh 9/10 of a pound so far this year. This one, ironically addressing ecology and environment, has Mr. Clavin's photos 7 times, and your name is printed 16 times on these 2 sides. My question is, what has been and what is slated to be in this preliminary budget for printing and postage of these mailings that taxpayers are paying for your campaign name recognition? And I'd love you to be looking in my direction when I'm addressing you. And where might I find these expenses appearing in the preliminary budget? I know page 47
Okay,
shows,
page 40. Hold on, wait a minute. I'm looking at
shows
you.
the postage.
Wait, hold on, wait a minute. I'm looking at you. I'm
But
telling you right now, looking at
it
you.
shows
Page
the
47.
postage, but it does not show the printing of these.
Reproduction expense, 700,000.
100,000 for the 700,000,
Reproduction expenses, all,
and that includes these.
applied, it's everything, all the town, all printing at the town.
Okay, thank you.
The informational brochures that the clerk would hand out, letterheads, envelopes, everything.
Tax bills.
So it was how many million and 700,000? $3,700,000.
3 million is
The
postage.
printing, I was asking, yes. Oh, and the staff, well, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen Montalbano, welcome back.
Thank you. Karen Montalbano, Baldwin, New York. So we're talking about the budget, and you have this whole thing, basically what it comes down to is we need better communication, not only to the taxpayers, but you've had a problem with what Newsday reported, which is then picked up. Simple PR 101. When you have a problem and something is incorrect, you immediately go back to the source and you get it corrected. I don't know if that's been done at this point, but I'm going to move on in looking at your preliminary budget and your remarks at the beginning. And you talk about your best value for your tax dollar. And we have 1,200 roadways, but I don't know, I seem to find a lot of potholes in those roadways. You talk about controlling costs. Well, controlling costs, if you didn't have automatic raises, you wouldn't have some control over the cost. You would be able to dial them back instead of putting them into law. You also talked about a new town quality of life force. I have to tell you, recently I had a reason to call and trying to connect with quality of life. And I asked to speak with them, and the operator had no idea where to put me. You say you meet your challenges head on, but when we have to think about it, we have to project forward. I know you can't project forward on that budget, but you do need to project forward that costs are going to increase. We have to think about planning for the future, what we might need to do in the future, maybe planning for, let's say, upgrading something, okay? And apparently, that seems to be sorely lacking, that we need a tax hike of this magnitude, whether it's 12% or 4.9%, because that still takes us over the tax cap. Now, I would also like to know, following up, you say it's $700,000 for all the printing, and it's over $3 million for all the postage, okay? I have been told, and I just want to know, is it correct that each of those mailings cost $80,000?
What are you talking about? Each of the mailings?
Each of the mailings that we receive as
mailings vary from mailing to mailing based on what it is. You have your tax bills, you have your tax receipts.
But I'm talking about the mailings. I'm talking about the mailings.
And some of them don't go out to all the town residents. Some go to district residents. Some just go to senior citizens. So it varies from each one to each one.
What is the average cost then of those mailings?
Well, they can't determine an average because there are varying kinds. If you want to follow up and let us know if there's a particular mailing you want to, let us know about it, we'll give you the information.
Well, it seems to me that you should be able to come up with an average cost by saying this is the highest, this is the lowest, this is how many we've done. Okay, I just only looked at this, and if $80,000 is for 40 mailings, then we're at $3 million.
Oh, okay. Felix Picacci?
Felix Picacci, Franklin Square. How much reserves are being used in this budget?
22 million.
How much does the town expect to save in 2025 by right-sizing the workforce after paying for post-employment benefits?
Well, we've lost 160 employees. That was total $16 million. We have over 111 vacancies that were eliminated. Plus, we have another 56 in the budget. for contingencies if we need to do any kind of hiring. So the net effect of that is tens of millions.
Okay. How much has been cut from discretionary spending in the 2025 budget?
Everything in the budget is a mandatory expense. I don't know what you mean by discretionary. Can you give me an example?
Well, in the narrative, it says that we've reduced discretionary spending.
Right.
So you tell me what that meant. I don't know.
Any expense that there was a possibility of not doing it, we reviewed every single expenditure and eliminated whatever we could.
Okay. I heard a lot today about misinformation and people wanting to be clear on both sides here, the people behind the dais and the people back here. So let's be clear. The tax levy is about 12.1% increase, about $42 million. The tax rate, I'll take your word for it, is about 5%, 4.5%, whatever that is. And there is going to be a tax increase this year. Now, if you read the narrative that Don Clavin writes in the front of every budget book since he's been supervisor, he's always indicated explicitly when there was a tax cut. He indicated explicitly when there was a tax freeze. In this narrative, there's no explicit statement that taxes on average will go up about 4.5% a year for the average taxpayer. There's no explicit statement saying that the tax levy is going to increase 12.1% or $42 million. Maybe if you put that in each budget narrative, maybe there won't be so many people here being confused about what it is, because it is going up 12.1%. You're raising $42 million. Now, on top of that, you just told me, what, $22 million in reserves. So actually, we're not even making a structurally balanced budget. So I think except for 1 year in which the mortgage revenue came in way above expected, we haven't had a structurally balanced budget in this town. Correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe if you're in your narrative, Don Clavin, if he was explicitly clear, there would be no confusion. So next year, when you have a 12.1% levy increase and another 5% tax increase, and you explicitly say it in the narrative, people will now understand what you're talking about. It's not that many words. You put a lot of words here that are unnecessary. You talk about 4 consecutive years of tax freeze or tax cuts when in fact it went up 1.14%. Your tax levy went up, and I don't know what the tax rate is on that. Maybe it's negligible, but you didn't put that in there. Now, if you cut that back in the 40 mailings per year, they average about $80,000 total cost per mailing.
Thank you, Mr. Bacacci, and I'm sorry you didn't like the writing. And so, Mr. Bacacci, Mr. Bacacci, it's not about screaming louder, Mr. Bacacci. Sometimes you've had your 3 minutes. Mr. Bacacci, yes, it did, Mr. Bacacci. Mr. Bacacci, it's unfortunate the conduct and the way, Mr. Bacacci, if you cannot handle yourself correctly and be respectful, we are going to respectfully ask you to leave. Mr. Bacacci, you had your 3 minutes. You're acting like a petulant child. I can't believe it. My children are so much better behaved than you. If you cannot, Mr. Bacacci, if you cannot conduct yourself and be respectful, we listen to you all the time, Mr. Bacacci. Mr. Bacacci, please. We can't because you're screaming out like a child. Mr. Bacacci, what? Are you okay? Do you need assistance? Mr. Bacacci, do you need assistance? You seem very, very troubled. You're making me a little uncomfortable again. Hey, say what you want, folks. Sometimes you do feel a little uncomfortable around certain individuals, and that's the truth. Next, I'll call Patricia Charles. I do not have any other slips. Is there anybody else who did not sign in and wishes to be heard on this? Yes, sir. If you would come up to the back and give your name and address. Hi, Mr. Jacobs. Give your name and address. That'd be great.
Just give me a second. Bring this up a little bit. Thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Clavin. I hope I don't make you feel uncomfortable, but I just need a point of clarification.
Stop his clock. I just want to let you know, every time you come to the mic, you're always a complete gentleman. You're always super friendly and you're always super nice. And I will tell you right now, in the society we live in right now, and with everything going on, I would say it to anybody here, I take this very, very seriously. I take your safety, I take everyone's safety here very, very serious. And I will tell you honestly, I've never said that about anybody at any board meeting. But sometimes, you know what? Even I'll get uncomfortable. And I will call that out. And we will follow up appropriately. But even the biggest critics that come to this meeting, I will always say, are always incredibly nice, incredibly respectful. And you know what? At the end of it, I could see you on the street. You might not agree with me with anything we do, but I will tell you, everyone's always been very, very nice and respectful. And when something like that transpires, it does bother me. It shakes me to the core because you know what? That's how crazy stuff starts. And I mean it. And that's why I say, and I mean it to you. You sometimes, you know what, you don't agree, but you're always an incredibly nice gentleman to me. And I mean that about everybody in your family. They don't have to agree with me politically in any way, but any of the critics out there have always, always been very, very nice to everybody here. And that's why I do get a little uncomfortable in situations like that. And maybe it's just my own personal safety, maybe it's the safety of others, but I would, if it was reversed for any of you, I would absolutely feel the same. I really would. So go back to you. But again, you're always a nice gentleman to me, and I'm grateful for that.
Is it on? Oh, thank you for that. And that's just the way I was raised and everything else with my family. We always have different opinions of political things, but we respect each other's space and position. I just need a point of clarification on page 25 about the assessment area of Uniondale. There it says the taxable valuation is $6,249,613. And I was wondering, is that also including the maintenance of the water towers, or that's just basically the 4 different classes that are listed there? Because you always refer to page, excuse me, you always refer to 47 about different other areas about maintenance and so forth. But when I look at 47, I see nothing about maintenance of the water tower. I see what they charge for the water district for its valuation. But and being a taxpayer and a shareholder, where's the part where it stated about maintenance of just general things, of the piping in the streets, the water towers and everything of that nature?
It's in the district's detailed budget, water.
And what page that would be on, sir?
It's for Uniondale.
So I see it on page 25 for the evaluation, but I see nothing about anything else.
Page 154.
154? All right, just bear with me, please. Thank you.
And if you notice, the capital outlay, we've allocated $500,000 for whatever capital items they may need that wouldn't go through the bonding routine. So we've actually put $500,000 into the budget for whatever maintenance items that may arise. We're having a lot of problems with the water districts and their expenses to keep the 1,4-dioxin going. It's becoming a very, very expensive project for all the water departments. The chlorine, the equipment. The commissioner will tell you we can't even get the equipment. It's on hold because so many water departments across the country are utilizing the same type of equipment. But certainly we're doing the best we can to buy all the equipment necessary and pay for all of the operating expenses. Very expensive to keep. The electric costs are phenomenal, and the chemicals are very, very expensive. So in any event, just a little bit of dialogue on the water district.
I understand that, sir, but in the same token, I understand the 1,4-dioxin. I spoke about this a couple of years back, and the town was nice enough to hear my complete about taking care of that, and they realized it was not just Uniondale, other areas involved with that for that contaminant. But in the same token, we have a couple of water towers. They do need, well, my personal solution would be just tear down, bring back new, because they're too far going to be kind of patched up. But that's also pertaining to, like you said, 1,4-dioxin and other contaminants, because rust in itself has byproducts that when you go through the water, because we have some neighbors complain about the water being brown and everything else of that nature. And as a shareholder and a taxpayer, dutiful taxpayer, and I'm like that lady here about the transparency of things that, and especially the gentleman that his world is financing, he was spot on about saying if you're going to do something by freezing it, then unfreezing it, and so forth. And like I said earlier, I'm so sorry I didn't bring all them things to say how much we have so much budget plus like in the plus millions and billions of dollars that now you're going to do this hike. And thank you, Supervisor Cleveland, for correcting the information that Newsday put out about 12.1 versus you said 4 and change. I just hope when I see my tax bill that your information is more accurate than what's stated in the paper. And thank you for that. And also, Deputy Supervisor, thank you for doing a wonderful job in Hempstead. Hopefully we get Uniondale, Lakeview, and Roosevelt get the same attention. So thank you. And thank you for the clarification on that too.
Thanks, Mr. Jacobs. I really mean it. Thank you very much. Any other people like to speak before we go? Yes, ma'am. We'll go. He is a very nice man. Yes, ma'am.
Again, I'm Carolyn Hanna. I'm from North Valley Stream. And this is probably a really simple question. What are the different classes? Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4?
All properties, a number of years ago, were divided up so that they have separate responsibilities for taxes. Class 1 is one family, single family homes. Class 2 is multiple family homes. Class 3 is utilities, and Class 4 for all other but commercial properties. It's the total tax pie and how it's divided among the different types of properties.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's by the assessor. This is not anything the town does. This is what we're required to do according to the assessor.
Okay, so there's a couple of classes that really don't pay too much, but I'll go over that later. I have to sit home and check this out. But I have a question. Like you have on page 39, right? The town controller, full-time salaries, 3.9 million. How many people work for the town controller?
Are you saying page 30?
Page 39.
Page 39?
And I'm just looking at full-time salaries. I'm not even considering part-time, seasonal, overtime, longevity, full-time salaries. How many people does that cover?
Page 30, 39. Yeah, we have 39 full-time employees.
And you have another section called other salaries, which you didn't have for 23, but you've added, it was on 24, 95,000. What are those other salaries?
It's we offer a buyback on health insurance. Employees, if they opt out of our health insurance program, we pay them a portion of the premium, and that's what that is.
Okay, so 39 is that. Receiver of taxes, it's $3.1 million for full-time salary. How many people does that cover? Page 41.
You know, in the back of the book, back of each section lists all the salary employees with the totals.
Page 76, it's 43 employees. 43? Yeah, on page 76.
Every single department has the detail
Yep.
as to how many people and what the composition is of the salary.
So that number is only the full-time? Because I'm not asking for the seasonal, the overtime, the part-time,
So they got part-timers.
because you have separate numbers for that. So if you have
No,
all the employees
the
here,
number of employees are full-time employees. But we're required to indicate, if you have part-time employees, we indicate what the amount is for the part-time employees.
okay, so then I would have to flip from this page and figure out what page it would tell me, because it doesn't tell me on page 41 to go to page 76.
Well, but it's all sequential. So if you start with the salaries, they are in sequence the same way the budget is. It's all there, every single.
I'm just
dollar that
trying to
was
figure out how to read it. It's my first time getting one, so
telling
I'm
you how.
sorry about that. I didn't know where to look. I did notice that there are some areas where the salaries seemed different for like the council members. Council member for District 40, for District 4 only gets 60,000, and in District 3 it's 123,000. Why is there a difference? The time is still running. Why is the clock still running? They're not answering my question.
There's no difference in the councilmatic districts. So the total dollars are the same.
On page 32 and 33, District 3 salary is 123,000. I should have a few more seconds because they didn't answer my question and the time was running.
They're page 32 and 33. She's saying she's the discrepancy in the two salary pages there. Is he saying there's no discrepancy in them?
I'm just asking, why is there a difference in salary from the council?
I know you're saying there are no difference in the councils? Okay, all right. 1 through 6 are all the same.
District 4 says 60.
Okay, well, if you'd like to follow up, we have to go through the others. But like I said, you can grab them after and talk to them. But they said 1 through 6 are all the same. I know I saw a couple other people didn't sign in. But the other Mr. Jacobs. How you doing? Nice to see you again.
Good afternoon, Chris Jacobs, Uniondale, New York. Basically, I want to make a suggestion on the budget for the next year. Is that the town of Hempstead allocates money for replacement of the water tower. I reference article I picked up for the Herald from back in 2019, where the town of Hempstead unanimously approved $8.4 million bond in 2017 to build a new water tower in West Hempstead and fund other upgrades throughout the district. The old tower held 750,000 gallons of water instead of 225 feet. The new tower holds 1 million gallons of water and stands 165 feet. So town of Hempstead can fix water tower when they put their minds to it. And basically, what you just said, Supervisor Clavin, I concur with you that you care about safety. So please do care about those kids who have to look at that water tower and it looks structural and sound, and it's beyond repair. So hopefully that gets fixed in an expeditious manner. Thank you.
Always good to see you, Mr. Jacobs. The gentleman in the back, I thought you want to come up there and give us your name and address?
A little reluctant to identify myself being as...
You got to give us your name and address so we know who you are.
Years ago, I was at a tax assessment conference, which you were present.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Well, let me explain.
Okay.
You were present, and you implied that I was some kind of criminal for asking a legitimate legal real estate question.
Okay.
But I won't get into that now.
Obviously you won't. Okay. Would you like to give us your name then?
No.
Okay.
But I'd like to ask a question just regarding, it was said that the...
Well, sir, the policy is here in the town, before the speaker goes, we get their name and address to verify where they're from and who they are. So we're respectfully asking you for it.
Well, I'd rather not. I just have a question, being that I have a history with,
I really don't recognize you, don't know you, so I don't know about your history, but I have no idea who you are.
My name is Anthony. So I'd just like to ask a question.
Well, Anthony, if you'd like to give us your last name, we'd like to give you an answer.
I just have a question regarding the excess funds.
It doesn't, Mr. Anthony. Yeah. Again, we'd like your last name so we know who we're talking to here.
Well, you implied that I was a criminal years ago for asking a legitimate question at a library. You like, are there cameras here? I asked an uncomfortable, legitimate legal question, and you implied that I was some kind of criminal by asking you a regular question.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So, I'd just like to ask a question regarding the excess funds, that's all. How, if I can ask? It was said the excess funds that you were withdrawing from, what kind of financial instrument were they stored with?
All of our funds are invested according to state law, most likely in primarily in CDs.
And what was the return on that investment?
It depends on what the rates are. Right now, we're getting about 5%.
Is that included? I mean, is there any comprehensive annual financial review that the town or that they publish?
It's called our annual audit, And now we have a report that goes up to Albany to the state controller every year.
So is that published? I mean, is that public knowledge?
It's available. It's on,
But do they,
on,
I mean, they don't publish that like they publish the pie charts with the budget and the revenue. Do they include the return on investments when they
well,
publish?
it's income and it's in the budget.
It's in the budget, but is it listed separately as return on investment? Because,
I don't know what you're talking about. Return on investment is the interest.
okay,
I'm trying
but
to tell you the interest is recorded and it's in the budget. You want to call it return on investment? That's
well, is that in the budget when they say we got this much return on investment or income from investments?
yes.
Is that published?
You've got the budget in front of you.
But I mean, it doesn't say this is how much we made in interest. You know, I mean, these pension and government funds.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. We appreciate it. I don't have any other slips. Is there anybody that would like to be heard that has not spoken yet? Sure, 1 and 2. Oh, no, sorry, you already spoke. So Diana, you haven't spoken on this.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Just a question about the animal shelter budget. Is there a line for trap, neuter, return at all?
TNR, trap, neuter, return, TNR. Is there a TNR line or no?
It's included.
Okay, because I just wanted to point out, if you're not aware, Supervisor, that program has been dramatically cut back. It's something that does have consequences when it is cut back. I don't know if there's a plan to reinstate it. I think it's critically important. The other question I have is that it was mentioned that there were several jobs eliminated across the town. Is that the seasonal part-timers? And the reason I ask that is because there are part-timers at the shelter that were asked to leave. One in particular, Andrea, that was doing a phenomenal job at the animal shelter. You couldn't ask for a better receptionist at the front, and she's no longer there. My understanding is that she was fired. I hope it's not a reflection of the cutbacks, because that would be pretty upsetting to find that someone is fired that did such a great job. And again, I don't know if this is townwide across the other departments, but I think somebody has to take a more personal look at these kinds of decisions and reconsider them, because the employees of the town should not pay the price for these kinds of budget cuts either, nor should taxpayers, increases rather. So again, could you please tell me about the positions that you had mentioned? Are any specifically cut from the animal shelter budget?
I don't believe so. The number of employees should be the same. Yeah.
The number of employees stayed the same there. Is that correct? No more. No. There were no cuts. Or is this a consistent number of employees there?
Are the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, with regard to the TNR, if you can reinstate
Yeah, I'll check into that. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. A lot of people are upset about it, and that would be very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. No, sorry, you've already spoken. That's it. Anybody else that did not speak that wishes to be heard? Okay. If not, may I please have a motion?
I move that we close the meeting until 7 o'clock tonight.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. There we go. I'm sorry. If you name and address for the record, thank you.
Oh, somebody else is here?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Frances DiGiovanni Marshall, and I'm going to say something very different than most people said. I just want the board to know I've lived my whole life, 68 years, in my town of Levittown. And I lived there in a time when it was a more kinder neighbors, when everyone helped everyone with anything they needed, including watching their children. I don't know much about the budget or the statistics or the facts of employees, but I'd like to say I'm here for one reason only, and that's to implore you not to have any increases in the taxes so I can continue to live my life in my home in Levittown. My husband served in this country honorably in the Navy and worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs. But since his death, my income has dropped dramatically, and I don't want to have to leave the home I've lived in my whole life. So I implore this board, do whatever you have to do, but please don't raise the taxes any higher than they already are. I struggle every single day with it. And I'd just like to say thank you, and that's all I can say. Please don't raise the taxes. Do whatever you have to do, but don't raise the taxes. My school tax bill has gone up dramatically, and I am struggling. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Anybody else wish to be heard? If not, may I please have a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, I just have a,
Mr. Town Attorney?
yes, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, I have a housekeeping issue. The Controller's Office received late an adopted budget from the Roosevelt Public Library Board of Trustees and received a corrected budget from the Bethpage Water District. We have copies of the revised spreadsheets for the public, and copies are available on the town's website. I ask the board to please amend the preliminary budget regarding the Roosevelt Public Library and the Bethpage Water District.
Okay, all right. All right. All right. And then can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we recognize those particular ones that we just received and the board approved them.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Okay, can I get a motion on the hearings?
I move that we close the meeting until 7 p.m. this evening.
Second of all.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Okay, we adjourn till 7 p.m. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Good job.